Greetings, fellow beavers, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of a new series playing Timberborn. This series will serve as a let's play and also a tutorial for new players. If you would like to skip the game's overview or the scenario setup, please use YouTube chapters, and details can be found in the description. Timberborn is a beaver city building game with a unique architecture system, wooden machinery, dams, water physics. You prepare your settlement for recurring droughts and other disasters. You stockpile food and keep fields and forests alive even after rivers dry up. Rely on both natural water sources and artificial irrigation to keep the land arable. In this specific series, I will be playing on hard difficulty on the Diorama map, which is the smallest by far, playing as Iron Teeth. There are two species, Iron Teeth and Folktales, and some of the priorities while playing will be left up to you, the live viewers. So, generally speaking, Folktales specializes in farming, and generally speaking, Iron Teeth specialize in metal. Very generally speaking. And that's what we're going to be doing, the Iron Teeth. Now, there are a bunch of different maps, as you can see, of different dimensions. So the recommended planes is 256 by 256. We're going to be playing on the tiny little diorama map. Doesn't get any smaller than that. In fact, none of the other maps even compare to its size. So a huge part of the diorama map is dealing with its resource scarcity. And then in terms of difficulty, more or less, the harder the difficulty, the worse the droughts. And also, on easier difficulty, beavers don't consume a lot of water or food, which makes it pretty easy, and you start off with an abundance of resources. But on hard, you start with basically nothing, and it's rough. And that's apparently what I like to do. So, Clanad, thank you for the gifted subs. Here we go. Now, I will treat this as if you all have never played Timberborn before, covering everything as if this is a Let's Play tutorial. So, this is going to go rather fast, and I'm definitely going to lean into the pausing initially. So a lot has changed since last I played. A huge amount of the game mechanics for research and higher levels of technology, and also, I would say land efficiency is probably a good sort of summary about the game mechanic changes. Land efficiency would be making more food by processing it, by cooking it, on fewer tiles. I think the developers realized that people have like megatropolises where they have giant stuff, and as a result it requires huge swaths of land in order to feed those people. So now there's better ways to feed yourself that will eventually be unlocked in the research tree. But before we go into that, a little bit of the UI here. So up top is the population well-being, and these are all the things that the beavers need. So monuments, fun, knowledge, spirituality, aesthetics, social life, nutrition, and basic needs. And as you provide these needs, there are bonuses to your people, or beavers in this case, where they live longer, they work faster, and they move faster. This is the population. So we start off with 8 adults and 4 children. And then homelessness. So this is occupied beds, free beds, and how many are homeless. And then also jobs. So it's workers, vacancies, and unemployed. Next is your research points. Then this is your materials, ingredients, raw food, logs, and water. Up top is the cycles and also forecast for a few days in advance, so that you know when droughts are coming. Time controls. And one of the first things I'm going to do, see this little time control? This is how many hours they work per day. Initially, I'm going to check this up to 19, so that they work more hours. As I provide more services to my Iron Teeth, like campfires and rooftop, what's it called? Rooftop terraces, things like that, I'll ramp this back down. But initially, there is nothing that they do other than eat and then go to sleep when they're done working. As I add things in, we will reduce the working hours so they can actually hang out at a campfire and socialize. Down here is the controls. So arrow, cut trees. So cut trees is a marker of like where you want to cut trees, and it's level specific. And you just designate the trees that you want to cut. And this is important because sometimes you'll have fruit trees or resin producing trees or things like that where you don't necessarily want to cut them down because you're like, let's say you have a giant grove of mangroves for mangrove fruit. Cutting them down is obviously a problem because if you cut them down, then you're not getting fruit. And it takes a while for a tree to mature and then for fruit. Then it's plant crops, which we'll get into once we have farmhouses. Planting bushes and trees. Deconstruction, or ripping things up from the ground like berries and other trees. Assigning priorities, which is really useful. And then pathing, landscaping, and waterscaping. Storage, direct management, which is not all that relevant to this specific series, because this is more about managing multiple districts. On really large maps, you can have multiple districts. And on really large maps, typically you'll have like metal and things like that outside of your home district, meaning that you are incentivized to travel. Housing, and for Iron Teeth specifically, they don't naturally breed. They breed in breeding pods, and these breeding pods require water and berries, and that's how you make new populace. So the Iron Teeth, unlike the Folktales, require breeding pods. Breeding pods are unique, and anytime that there's anything unique to the faction, you'll see it in yellow there. So there's a lot of things that are going to be unique to the Iron Teeth, including their barracks or row houses, so on and so forth. Then we got water, and right off the start, we're going to want a deep water pump in order to get water from the stream here. Food, and this is where we start to get into a lot of the newer stuff. So fermenting cassava or mushrooms or soybeans. And as you can see, the inputs are like 4, it takes time, and then the outputs are like 10. So it's a way to sort of multiply your food in a very significant way, meaning that you can live off of a much smaller plot of land, providing a lot more food, provided that you do the mechanical work to ferment or press oil, canola oil, or hydroponic gardening, or food factories, turning corn, eggplant, or algae into food. So there's a lot of different ways to process food to make it a lot more efficient. So corn is like a 1-to-5 ratio, which is pretty good. Or coffee brewing. So all of this is new since the last I played. This was added in either update 3 or 4. Currently I'm on update 4. I think the last time I played it was like update 1 or 2. Wooden things mostly stayed the same except for Trapper's Shack, which gathers pine resins. And then you can make strengthens planks by infusing them with resin, which is the wood workshop. That is new. The efficient mine is also new. So there are going to be deep mines. So this allows you to have like continuous or endless play. Prior, you had a finite number of ruins that you would salvage for metal, and now the underground ruins is like an infinite metal source. And then power. One of the big things that are new here is the large water wheel, which is unique to this faction. The thing that the Folktales get is like wind turbines. And then gravity batteries, which allows you to use excess power to crank weights up and then release the weights as a gravity battery when you need the power and aren't providing it, which is pretty neat. A huge part of the new mechanics would be robots. So bot factories, and these bot factories are your sort of like digging terraformers. And I really haven't played much with them because they're pretty late in the game and I'm not going to get there for this stream anyway. And then you have some new leisure things like a Lido where they relax by the river, and also just having their fur wet is a new basic need. So bathing or running through a stream are requirements, medical beds, healers, and a mud bath. Decorations are more or less the same since last I played, except for the bell, which is the beginning of the workday. It goes dang, that's all it does, and then monuments. So right at the start here, we want to be raising the game's volume because I feel like it's a little low. And then let's set up some initial buildings. So right at the start of the game, you're going to want a lot of wood because your beavers, everything they do depends on like a constant income of wood. Up here, I'm going to build some inventors. These inventors, your beavers will work at them to generate research points. And then initially, because we have a bunch of these gathering flags set, I'm just going to hire more builders to build those flags. Now that we have the wood flags and the berry flags, another good thing to do would be to get a water source. So it's useful to mention that on the maps, you'll have a water source. So up here, these stones produce water. And then the water flows from those stones down here, where then it will drain out. Fundamental mechanics that are very important to cover. So this is what I want to initially build. And we'll get that going. Malden, Marauder, A. Rinnigan, Eno, Krusty Rhino, and Bobo Shug. Thank you for the resubs and cheers. And I'll drink to that. Oh, and Tiny Rick as well. Cheers all. So I'm carefully looking at the unemployed over here to make sure that everyone has a job for efficiency. And the first thing we want to build, once we have all the builder flags going, is water. Your beavers die very quickly without food and water. So we'll get the deep water pump and stick it on the stream. Now, the next thing I want to do, because I'm playing on hard mode. Hard mode means that you get a lot of droughts and they last a while. It's pretty brutal. I want to build a dam. So by default, these dams will allow some water to pass on the spillway over the top, but will keep the water level upstream to a certain level. So what these will allow us to do is once the water stops flowing from the water source for a drought, it will keep this section of the stream far more watered, allowing us to withdraw water for the deep water pumps and also irrigate the soil. Because if there's no water flowing and there's no water on the map, all of the green grass that you see everywhere would dry up and die. And that would happen very quickly. So we're getting the deep water pump going. It is almost built. And then as soon as that is built, we'll start working on the dams. I like to build the dams immediately because you never really know when your first drought is coming. And it's really handy to focus on it so that you don't croak early. Because it sucks when that happens. So the current priority right now is prepare for the first drought. Simply put. Because it will happen very quickly, and if you don't prepare early, and I really would prefer not to have to save scum, if you don't prepare early, it will catch you, and not so good. Do trees regrow? They will naturally regrow, albeit slowly, into their little seedlings. But in order to be sustainable, the first thing I usually unlock with the research tree is Forester. Because without a Forester, you're going to have a real hard time supplying the tree demands. Because you need a lot more lumber than what will naturally regrow. Even on really big map tiles, Forester is going to be an absolute must. Okay, so we have a water pumper. I don't have storage for the water yet, but I'm not too worried about that at the moment. And then we also have an inventor going. So now we're starting to get science points. And my beavers here are building this dam so that I can survive the first drought. And I have one work vacancy, which is probably one of these. Yeah, it's one of these lumberjack flags. No problem. So you can see the flow of the water. And because we don't have shelter, we don't have very good well-being. If we take a look at the beavers themselves, as you can see, this is their basic needs, and if they're met, their hunger, thirst, sleep, shelter, wet fur, etc. It goes all the way down. And they don't get bonuses until you hit next tier. So the first tier is well-being 5. So in my opinion, until you can hit 5, there's not much of a point to provide services. So what 5 would look like, if you're wondering. The first 5 we're probably going to hit is we get 3 right off the bat from supplying shelter. And then probably kohlrabies, which is a food source. And then like campfire. And that will get us to 5 pretty early on. Now, if you're wondering if you can crank this working hours up to 24 hours, you can. But as soon as your beavers get tired, they just go to sleep. So then they'll be on really weird work schedules. And there's a lot of production chains that require beavers to be working together. So, for instance, if you're trying to power up a lumber mill with power wheels, if someone's working at the lumber mill but nobody is running on the power wheel, then the lumber mill doesn't work. And the inverse is true. If someone is running the power wheel but nobody's at the lumber mill isn't doing anything. So it's also very important to make sure that the beavers keep a schedule, because if they don't, it gets real messy with trying to like make sure that facilities are staffed properly. Does this map have bad water? I honestly don't even know. So we have got some of the dam going. So here, the water level, it's hard to tell. And there's actually a way to measure the water level with this stream gauge. But like, we can see it's about half, right? It's half full or so. And building this dam will help to raise the water level up so that we have more water in storage. Yeah, the bad water is in update 5. It's only on experimental branch. I'm playing on 4. I should have written that somewhere. Oh well. Oh, actually, it's here. I mean, that's technically the version number. As you can see, it's 0.49. All right, I have a vacancy somewhere. It's probably just a lumberjack flag, so I could ignore that. And we're about to get the second dam. And on top of these dams, I can build pathing. So not only am I building a dam, but this dam will allow me to go to the other side of the river. So why did I put the dam here? Is putting the dam where it is now will provide the most possible water for wood cost upstream. You know, if I put the dam here, then everything right of this river goes dry during the drought. So this, putting it here, will not only have a larger volume of water in the stream, but also the water, because it reaches eastward, will help to irrigate this eastern section of the map. Because that's another thing, is like water in the, water somewhere in the soil or in your riverbeds will help to irrigate. And you'll see when I hit my first drought, parts of the eastern and southern part of this map here will dry out. And very quickly, plants die off without water, and then eventually, like, so too will trees. However, if trees are fully grown, they'll die off, but you can still cut them down, which is exactly what we're doing here. All these trees here are dead. They're all dried up, but because they're fully grown, they still have wood. Okay, I have 1 unemployed. I can fix that. So I'm going to put another tree flag, but I'm going to put it up here. Nope, not there. Because I want this tree flag to be able to reach everything up on this plateau. So I'll just plop it there. Okay, we have 3/4 of our dam. Another thing to mention is the builders that I have only can reach so far given a road network. So let me just demonstrate something real quick. My builders can't go any further east than this marker here. If I want them to go further out, I could provide roads, and then if we check that back, as you can see, they go almost to the edge of the map. So because I'm on the Diorama map, I would prefer not to have to build extra builder huts, because they're expensive and unnecessary, provided I have good transportation networks. So my point is, yeah, try to set up your maps so that your builders in your district HQ can go everywhere they need to go. It will help out a lot. We're almost done with this dam, and then I'll update the priority. After I get the dam, the plan is to start working on an industrial lumber mill so that we can get planks. Planks is a very essential part of building materials and construction materials. Asleep they go. I'm going to reduce the working hours by 1 hour. Because it seemed like I had some beavers that were, like, struggling to eat. And I want to give them more time off. Because in a second here, we're going to have the beaver dam. Alright, the dam is now built. That's good. And that gives us access to the resources on the other side. The dandelions, which is part of medicine, more berries. And then if I had ramps, I would also get access to the oak and birch trees on the other side as well. Because as you can see, I have clear-cut a considerable amount of the pine trees that I started with. So we're going to want to replace those at some point. Alright, the next project, as I mentioned, is to get an industrial lumber mill. I do want to talk about how to do work before I put this down. So I'm just going to hypothetically put that there. I don't know if it's staying there. But how to do work is you need, like, water wheels. And it's really important to analyze how the water is flowing. So this corner is like a dead corner. It's not producing, like, a flow movement as much. So where you put your water wheels is important because if you want them spinning, you have to place them where they will spin. And generally speaking, there is a finite amount of water coming out of the water source here. And the more narrow the stream is, the faster it will flow. So, for instance, if I put a water wheel here, and then I put levees, and I know these aren't levees, but imagine they're levees. If I put levees on either side, the water will then be forced to go through, instead of a 3-wide gap, a 1-wide gap, and it will flow a lot faster, producing a lot more mechanical power for the wheel. Be warned, however, if there is not enough room for the water to flow, like if you know, try to squeeze the water too much, you'll end up in a situation where you'll have flooding, and that can actually be fairly catastrophic, because if you flood your starting district, which is where your builders are working, it will disable your starting district, disabling your builders, and then it also, because your builders become disabled, you will have a very hard difficulty trying to, like, fix the situation, because you won't have builders to do anything. So just be warned of that. And here's a good example. We're like a few hours past our working hour, and this beaver here was up late, as was this one, so they're not working right now because they're sleeping as a result. Oh, I didn't actually want to put my industrial lumber mill here. I was just placing it. So, destroying it because I hadn't actually built it refunds the logs, as you can see here. So it's not like it costs me anything. So let's go ahead and pick maybe this section to build a compact water wheel, which will spin, producing power for the lumber mill. The other thing is that the lumber mills will transfer power through them. So for instance, this is a valid way to transfer power. The wheel is connected to this lumber mill, which is connected to that lumber mill. So both will get work done. So you can lay it out in such a way where you absolutely minimize the amount of footprint by sending power through things. And there's a lot of things that could be sent power through. Like, interestingly, I think like warehouses can have power sent through it and things like that. But I'm not going to be using that at the moment. So what I want to do is maybe move this there. Put the water wheel. Well, I said that was a dead spot. So I'll put the water wheel here with a power shaft intersection going 4 ways so that it's expendable. One of the things that I want to do is I want to actually be designing for when the water stops flowing during droughts, to then be able to start using power wheels. So I can stick power wheels, you know, anywhere that is on this geared network. So like putting it there will work for me. And then that means that this power shaft only needs to be a 3-way, like that. And this, for now, can just be a turn like that. Now, these two things don't need to be built now. They are required inside of a drought. So for now, I just want these 3. So updating the priority, start making planks. And unlock Forester. The other thing that I wanted to do is to get some breeding pods. And these are going to be the highest priority. So your beavers will die of old age, or die of starvation, or die of dehydration. But dying of old age, provided that I don't fail at other things, is important to outpace. Because iron teeth don't reproduce naturally. The one advantage, however, is that folktails require lodging in order to reproduce. Irontails don't. They reproduce in vats. So we'll just build 2 vats here. You want to keep your vats somewhat close to where your berries are and somewhat close to where your water is, because the vats get fed berries and water in order to grow new beavers. Very complex technology, that. Also, would not hurt to get a second inventor to double the amount of science that we produce. So this worker, for instance, is not doing anything at the moment. So I'm going to pause that workspace and employ them as a builder. It's because I don't have storage for berries, and the Gatherer flag is now full of berries. This can be solved, of course, by adding berry storage, which is something I might end up doing soonish. But for now, I'm going to keep an eye on that berry count, and then make sure to put them back in as gathering berries once it's required. Trying to manage the workforce so that the things that need to be done soon get done. I'm also going to raise up the construction side of this inventor up to 3 from neutral, or like high, very high. I guess it's high. Technically it'd be 4. But so that we build that next, because I'd rather have a second inventor rather than the water wheel. I want to get science soon. The goal from this round is just not to die of starvation or dehydration. There's no real goal. It's a very sandbox game, but because I'm playing on hard, the goal is pretty well defined, which is don't die. So there's some trees that are in the way for me making a path up to this higher section. They'll be cut eventually. And there we go. We have a second inventor, so I'm going to fire one of my builders, and they will be reemployed as the inventor. And here you can see the productivity of the individual building. So my inventor is working like 97% of the working hours. The water pumper, only 62. That is, I can tell you right now, because this thing's full. If I wanted to fix that, all I would have to do is add storage for water in a small tank, which I intend to do at some point. I'm not too worried about certain facilities not having building like work efficiencies, like the deep water pump, because as long as the thing's full of water, it's doing exactly what I need it to do. So there's the industrial lumber mill. And this thing will take logs and turn them into planks. And I think what I'll do is put a plank storage right outside of it. I don't have log storage yet, but the plank storage right outside of it so that they don't have to run very far for new planks. It would also make sense to put log storage somewhere close by, like possibly here, so that they can be fed logs quickly and then have somewhere to put the planks quickly. The planks are probably, for most beaver colonies, is probably what you're going to be making the most of, because planks are a requirement for a lot of the more advanced stuff, like gears is planks into gears, or you have planks into resin into hardened planks. Or, but it's primarily the gears. There's also paper mills into periodicals or explosives. There's a lot of production chains that will have to be fulfilled at some point. So we're 19 science away from having a forester, which is good. Albino beaver? Oh no, the beavers that are light are just highlighted from me selecting the work facility. So if I click on the deep water pump, it shows me the beaver that works there, which is this one. So here's a zoom up of the dam and the spillway. So you can see the water levels higher. I think it's 0.75, so it's up higher. It's not, that part isn't important, is that when droughts happen, the water level will go to 0. As you will see in the back section here. And here I have some thirsty beavers, and as a result, they're moving at a disadvantage until they fulfill their water needs. Which is normal, but needs to be fixed. I'm going to destroy these 3 berry bushes, because what I intend to do is build a ramp here to gain access to this lower plane, and these berry bushes are in the way. And I have builders that are currently idle, so it makes sense to employ them that way. So we are almost done with the compact water wheel, and then all we need to do is the power shaft, and we will have this up and running. There we go. Water wheel's going. Producing 54 horsepower. And the power shaft is done. And now we are making planks. And also, about to unlock Forester. So the Forester requires planks to be able to be built. You can see that here. In the unlock, it requires 10 logs and 7 planks. So without planks, the Forester would have not been possible to build. Which is why I got the lumber mill first. Now we have plank storage. Something else that would be good is some small tanks for water. So I'll add some water tanks here so we can start stockpiling them. And I have to designate them as water because there's other liquids. Which wasn't true the last time I played. So there's canola oil, there's coffee, and there's also medicine. So, thinking about the Forester, things are a little bit different than the last I played. One of the things the Forester can do is to plant mangrove trees. So I'm going to put the Forester here as a high priority. And then, with that unlocked, we also get all of the types of things it can seed. So what I'm going to do is seed some pine. And then seed some oak. So oak, pine grows in 12 days to provide 2 wood. So, 1 wood every 6 days, let's say. But it will provide wood sooner than oak would. Oak takes 30 days, but provides 8 wood. So it's much more efficient, but you have to be patient in the growing time. There's also mangrove trees. Mangrove trees are even more efficient than pine. In terms of growth, it's 5 to 1. But they are aquatic, so they can only be planted in the water. And then there's also mangrove fruit, so it would be better if I use them as a fruit source, probably, than a wood source, and use them as only an emergency wood source. A birch is 9 to 1, so it's the quickest growing, but it only provides 1 wood, so it's really not efficient when compared to pine. And then dandelions for medicine, blueberries, so I can also sow blueberry bushes. For now, I have enough wild blueberry bushes that I don't need to do that, but at some point the Forester can start putting down blueberry bushes as well. I am super surprised I haven't had like a drought forecasted. Oh, there it goes. 3 days from now, we'll have a drought. Had to open my stupid mouth. And then I'm going to put, no, maybe not that. I'm going to put a lumberjack flag here next to the Forester to work the same area. I actually might change the makeup of the trees here a bit. I eventually like to go all oak. And save and have some pine that never gets cut for resin, if I need resin. But for now, we'll do a mix, because I need wood sooner. So the next thing I want to unlock is going to be wooden stairs. They're going to be immensely useful. How long does it take to make a new beaver? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know how many days off the top of my head. Like 5, maybe? So now the push will be to prepare for the drought and also to make as many planks as I can, because as soon as the water's no longer flowing, the water wheel won't be spinning, and therefore the industrial lumber mill won't have power. So trying to stockpile planks is going to be useful in advance. We almost have cut all the trees that we need to cut in order to gain access to this sort of back section. So here is how far the builders can build at the moment. But as soon as I have a road network, they will be able to travel further. How's food going? Food's low, but like I just am starting a new lumberjack flag. And then as soon as we have, now that the forester's built, I am going to start to get farmhouses. So priority is seed trees and build a farmhouse. There we go. So I'm planning to put crops sort of on the other side of the river. That way they're not competing with the same space as the forester. And this forester doesn't have anyone working in it, so I'm going to fire one of my builders to start working the forester. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn, which originally streamed live on Twitch December 27th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you on next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Iron Teeth.